Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's hearing. Today we're going to hear further presentations in relation to those who died in the fire. Yes, Mr. Willett.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Good morning to you. Good morning, members of the panel. I would now invite Mr. Danny Freedman, Queen's Counsel, please to come back to the podium to make the presentation on behalf of the families of Victoria, or Vicky King, and Alexandra Atala from flat 172 on floor 20 of Grenfell Tower. And as before, I would give the trigger warning that what Mr. Freedman is about to say or show you may contain material which is distressing, and therefore those in the room may wish to leave now or to look away from the live stream, as the case may be. Mr. Freedman, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Freedman.
Victoria Joanna King, known as Vicky, was born in Highgate, London on the 12th of June 1946. She was 71 years old at the time of her death. Vicky's daughter, Alexandra Catherine Atala, was born in Reading on the 24th of April 1977. She was 40 years old. Vicky and Alexandra moved into flat 172 on the 20th floor of Grenfell Tower in 1998. They are survived by family who include Victoria's sister, Penelope Pierce, Victoria's brother, Mark Bennett, Victoria's half-brother, Jonathan Bennett, and his family, wife Victoria, and daughters Joanna, Jessica, and Jennifer, as well as Alexandra's father and Victoria's former husband, Erkan Atala. When Alexandra was around 1 year old, Vicky separated from Mr. Atala, and she and her daughter moved first to Winchester, then to Australia, and then travelled in Europe and elsewhere, settling at some point in Turkey. They came back to England in late 1993. Following their move to Grenfell Tower, family members attempted to contact Vicky and Alexandra over the years without success. Although Vicky's sister, Penny, was able to have some limited contact with them through the Salvation Army at times, Vicky and Alexandra were no longer in contact with family or friends at the time of their death. They were missing, but they were missed. At the commemoration hearing, the family were able to share photographs of Vicky and Alexandra that remembered them in happy and healthy times. These are the photos that were shown today. There are certain residents who to date the inquiry has heard very little about for the reason that there is no evidence in relation to their actions on the night of the fire. That was the case with the presentations for Ligaya Moore and Sheila yesterday. Vicky and Alexandra fall into the same category. In order to understand why that is the case for them, it is important for the panel to consider their vulnerability as described in the detailed witness statement of Mark Bennett that can be found for your reference at IWS 401882. This evidence was read into the record on the 20th of May 2021, and the reference for that is day 134, page 100, line 13. This family has worked hard and carefully to explain to you the predicament of two people with long-term mental ill health that impaired their ability to evacuate the tower without assistance or to seek rescue. Such assistance required some form of pre-arranged plan and information sharing that you know was generally unavailable to all who might have needed it within the tower. This is an extreme and sad case of that type. There are some brief facts about the vulnerability of the two residents, including what was known about it, that the family want me to highlight to you today. When Vicky King and Alexandra Atala returned from living abroad for more than 10 years in the early 1990s. They were both admitted to hospital and treated under the Mental Health Act. This occurred in 1994, in circumstances in which Vicky King had exhibited highly paranoid beliefs. Alexandra Atala complained of a bowel illness, which Vicky believed was caused by poisoning. Following their hospitalisation, RBKC arranged an urgent housing referral. While living in temporary hotel accommodation in Kensington and awaiting housing, Vicky King and Alexandra Atala continued to have difficulty managing their mental health. However, they were unwilling or unable to sustain any substantial psychiatric treatment or seek support. By the time of the allocated tenancy to Grenfell Tower in early 1998, both mother and daughter were acknowledged to have significant mental health needs, with Alexandra recorded to be especially vulnerable at the time that the Grenfell tenancy began. The start date of the tenancy at flat 172 was 26th of January 1998. During their period of tenancy, both residents' significant vulnerabilities would be documented on multiple occasions. By way of key examples, in 2006, Vicky King reported to RBKC Tenancy Support Service that she herself had not seen a doctor since 1994, despite her self-described difficulties with anxiety. Behaviour strongly suggestive of mental health issues observed by residents and staff was also noted in her housing records. This included TMO officers recording Vicky as suffering from, quote, mood swings for no apparent reason, shouting in the reception area for no reason, kicking the lift door, shouting, and Vicky behaving, quote, quite out of the ordinary, making no eye contact, offering only one-word responses, and being distant, aloof, reserved, guarded, unforthcoming. Petra Dulova, the neighbour at flat 174, may have been referring to either daughter or mother when she described a woman in her late 50s or early 60s who was very reclusive and housebound, but she seemed very nice. The age description would suggest that this was Vicky. Alexandra Atala's own mental health condition caused her to seldom leave Grenfell Tower for at times years on end, if at all, and to be rarely seen by anyone. The TMO tenancy information form dated June 2015, apparently filled in by talking to Vicky King, referred to Alexandra Atala, but not Vicky, as suffering from a mental health problem, which was described by her mother as phobic anxiety nervous disorder. It referred to Alexandra Atala's last contact with a doctor dating back to 2009, and that when she had been prescribed medication, she had suffered anxiety attacks. Alexandra Atala's GP records from the Exmoor surgery dating from November 2016 to June 2017 refer to diagnoses of panic disorder, phobic anxiety, and agoraphobia going back to 1994. It appears that following contact with a psychiatrist and her GP, these diagnoses were affirmed, but for reasons unknown, Alexandra declined further assessment or assistance. Can I turn to some additional features of what was known before the fire about the vulnerability of these residents? In 2001, Vicky King made the first of several applications to move from the tower. This one was subsequently withdrawn. She cited problems faced by Alexandra Atala with regard to how living on floor 17, i.e. what became floor 20 after the refurbishment, would badly exacerbating her mental illness. The application also made clear that they had no telephone. The situation of having no telephone and not wanting to be contacted would emerge as a theme in later documents. A further application to relocate was made in 2003. This time it was not actioned because of rent arrears. Vicky now cited her own need to move away from the tower because, quote, "The 17th floor is too high and I am made nervous by the continuous noise made by helicopters." She submitted mental health documents relating to both herself and her daughter, setting out that they had suffered from mental health problems since at least 1994. Again, the application made clear that they had no telephone, with NA recorded on contact details. Between 2004 to 2006, there were several actions for rent arrears dealt with by the TMO and RBKC. The recurring and elementary theme was that Alexandra Atala was unable to establish her stable entitlement to benefits on disability grounds because she did not submit to examination by relevant medical health professionals. She would not go out of the flat. Either she or her mother, or both, did not want anyone to come in. Aside from drawing attention to the vulnerable status of both residents, the rent arrears applications also again show that the family had no telephone. It was therefore known that in the event of an emergency, this family could not be contacted, and neither could they make contact with emergency services. In January 2013, the TMO made an emergency referral to RBKC's Tenancy Support Service for Vicky King regarding further rent arrears. The referral noted that both Vicky and Alexandra were, quote, "suffering from mental health illness, so they both need assistance," that they were vulnerable and disabled on account of their mental health problems, and once again, they had no telephone. During the summer of 2013, the Tenancy Support Service discussed with Vicky the need for her daughter to make an application for disability-related benefits. At that time, inquiries were made with social services and the local community mental health service regarding previous involvement with Alexandra. However, in July 2013, Vicky declined further appointments. During the course of the refurbishment between 2014 and 2015, Ryden and the TMO were aware that Vicky King and Alexandra Atala's living conditions were Spartan in the extreme, and that both residents were vulnerable. The Ryden Work Survey of the 11th of November 2014 notes, quote, "Flat is nearly bare and covered with see-through plastic, and that the tenant has mental health problems alongside her daughter requiring sensitivity. It was actioned that the pair should be contacted, quote, via letters. A July 2015 works list similarly advised that Alexandra Atala was essentially confined to her bed due to her, quote, mental condition. There are photographs that were taken by Ryden during the works that are time-stamped 11th of March 2015. I'm not going to bring them up, but they show all of the windows covered up and almost nothing in a flat that Alexandra almost never left. I do ask that you look at these photographs in your own time panel. The reference is IWS 401890. The TMO tenancy information update of 2015 again made clear that there were no phones available to these residents. Alexandra Atala's RBKC social services file, which despite previous involvement was only active from 2016, indicates that there was a referral to North Kensington Community Health Team in October 2016, which was formally accepted on the system in January 2017. In turn, Exmoor surgery records show that Alexandra Atala joined a GP surgery on the 1st of November 2016. The telephone number for North Kensington Law Centre was provided as the only contact telephone number. A GP home visit on the 8th of November 2016 noted various diagnoses including chronic and phobic anxiety, panic disorder and agoraphobia with panic attacks, and that there had been a referral to social services. On the 24th of May 2017, social services contacted the GP as they were concerned that they were not able to contact Alexandra Atala directly and that the only contact was via North Kensington Law Centre. Further contact between the 1st of June and the 7th of June 2017 took place between agencies, indicating concern from RBKC Social Services and from North Kensington Law Centre about Alexandra Atala's well-being. There was a further joint home visit from Social Services and the GP on the 7th of June 2017, prompted, as noted in the medical records, by the concerns that Alexandra was never seen outside of the flat and had not left the flat for 10 years. Vicky King was recorded to be reluctant to allow entry when the visit had not been notified in writing. The GP gained admission to the flat after calling 999 and obtaining police assistance. A further visit by the GP without social workers took place on the 12th of June 2017. It appears that Alexandra Atala declined examination and reiterated she did not want any psychiatric intervention or medication. The medical report sent to Her Majesty's Coroner, Dr. Wilcox, after the fire reiterated the multi-agency concern that Alexandra Atala had not left the property for over 10 years. Panel, that takes us to the events of the 13th and 14th of June. CCTV footage shows Vicky King in the lift lobby of Grenfell Tower at 15:33 on the 13th of June, about to go up into the building. For this family, the police checked other CCTV footage that showed that Vicky leaving and entering the premises on the 6th, 7th and 8th of June. Consistent with the evidence that she was housebound, no CCTV footage of Alexandra Atala leaving or returning to the tower was ever discovered. Prior to 0126, the fire was already affecting floor 20. This would coincide with the evidence of Adriana Ramirez, who spoke to her daughter Jessica at around that time when she was already on floor 18, having fled from flat 176. Jessica would subsequently tell the control room that flat 176 was on fire when she spoke to them from flat 201. By 0130, a call was made by Farah Hamdan from flat 175 to the LFB control room to tell them that smoke was building up in the lobby, and she was up on floor 20 with young children. The presentation for the Belkadi family will follow this afternoon. Despite the deteriorating conditions on the floor 20 lobby, other residents from floor 20 were successfully evacuating. Emma O'Connor and Luke Towner of flat 171 heard alarm sounds from somewhere in the building that was definitely nearer than floor 4 and used the lift to exit, not least because of Emma's disabilities. That enabled them to get to the ground floor lobby at 0119. Smoke was coming up through the ventilation system onto floor 20 at the time they left. Also, Petra Dulova in flat 174 was woken at around 0120 by the sound of alarms in the hallway of the flat, with light smoke coming in from the lobby. By that time, Miss Dulova and her partner left the flat at approximately 0137. Taking 5 minutes to exit the building. The smoke-filled conditions in the lobby of the floor completely blinded them. However, the stairwell still remained sufficiently free of smoke to make their exit safely once they got beyond the lobby. They exited at 0142. Various residents would confirm how dense the smoke became on floor 20. Petra Dulova was blinded by it at 0137. Farah Hamdan described it as thick and black at 0143. For that reason, if Vicky King and Alexandra Atala had opened their front door during this period, the smoke would, as Professor Purser has explained, undoubtedly have been immensely frightening and challenging to them. This would have been in contrast to the relatively smoke-free conditions in their home at the time. As to the build-up of smoke in the lobby, one of the causes was that the door to flat 176 did not self-close. Mrs. Ramirez has confirmed that in her inquiry statement, and when firefighter Badilla reached the floor at about 01:40, he found the door ajar. Miss Alison Munro, Queen's Counsel, addressed you generally on the known facts in relation to self-closing doors during the presentation for Jessica Urbano Ramirez on the 6th of July 2022, and the reference for that is day 300, page 26, line 21, to page 28, line 7. Further, as we noted yesterday in the presentation for Sheila, one of the reasons why lobbies so quickly became affected on so many floors was because between floors 14 to 20, the only flat 6 door that had a working self-closer was flat 156 on the 18th floor. All other number 6 doors on these floors did not. The evidence is that all of them probably remained open on the night of the fire. According to the Phase 1 report at Volume 4, paragraph 24.24, the whole point and critical importance of self-closing devices is to ensure that a flat entrance door closes without the need for fleeing residents to remember to do this, thereby maintaining compartmentation and assuring the means of escape of others. That did not occur here. Other presentations will develop aspects of this in more detail, but the following fire service response occurred in relation to the 20th floor. The call by Farah Hamdan Belkadi at 01:30 caused a service request to be made at 01:31. It read, quote, "Fire on 20th floor, also people trapped." A separate intervention by Jessica's mother caused a group of 3 firefighters to go to floor 20. This was prompted by firefighter Badilla meeting Mrs. Ramirez outside the tower. They got to the floor, found flat 176 empty, but the flat filled with smoke, the front door open, and smoke coming out into the lobby. They did not knock on other doors before their BA sets started to run out, and they had to turn back downstairs. You will hear in the coming presentation how firefighter Williams and Fernandez were deployed to flat 175 between 01:59 to 2:25. A crew deployed to floor 20 at a similar time consisting of firefighter Welsh and crew manager Eden, but had to leave before their air ran out. All these crews were using standard duration breathing apparatus only. Their description of the conditions on floor 20 was that it was hot, full of thick black smoke, with no visibility. They banged on doors and shouted through boxes, but obtained no response. At this time, Vicky King and Alexandra Atala remained in flat 172. Against the above accounts of conditions in the building and the known evidence of Vicky and Alexandra's vulnerabilities, it is unlikely that they would have been able to escape from flat 172 unaided, or even to make their presence known to potential rescuers. Without a telephone, they were unable to call for assistance. The remains of Vicky and Alexandra were recovered from the first bedroom nearest to the flat front door. Mother and daughter were lying in close proximity to one another. Flat 172 had external walls on the eastern and southern elevations of the tower. Analysis of the footage of external flame spread shows that the external walls of flat 172 were fully covered in flame by respectively 0222 and 0306. The bedroom in which Vicky and Alexandra were found was located on the western side of the property, with a common wall with flat 173 and a window on the southern elevation of the tower. Given the lack of any known direct contact with Vicky and Alexandra during the course of the fire, the precise time of death is unknown. Professor Purser's Phase 2 report recalls that the Kadir family was forced to flee flat 192 after 3 o'clock, and that the El Wahhabi family in flat 182, you'll hear about in due course, became seriously affected just before 3 o'clock. Cumulatively, Professor Purser suggests that if Vicky and Alexandra opened the bedroom window to prevent the build-up of smoke after 0130, which is unknown, they would have lost consciousness at around 0310, with the conditions becoming lethal at around 0320. This was before the interior fire overtook the bedroom where they were sheltering. A post-mortem blood sample for Vicky King showed a 58% carboxyhemoglobin saturation, which is within the lethal range. Based on both the available toxicology evidence, Professor Purser's evidence, and the analysis of the fire spread, the medical cause of death for Vicky and Alexandra can be properly given as the more specific and informative inhalation of fire fumes, rather than the generic formulation of consistent with the effects of fire currently found in the available post-mortem reports. Panel, in all the tragic cases that we have presented, this case has a particular sadness. It involves a mother and daughter who were deeply connected to one another in life, just as they remained connected right up to the moment of death. The papers that you have establish, by way of evidence, Vicky doing her very best to care for her daughter in both of their ill health. They also show something about the difficult life that Alexandra lived. It is important to the family to present the known facts in public, including the real vulnerability of these two people. They want the lives of their relatives to be visible and for what happened to them to serve as a basis for broader reflection. Their hope is that this inquiry will mark what can be learned for the purposes of ensuring fire safety for all from what is now known of Vicky and Alexandra's lives and the way that their lives were lost. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Friedman. I think it's appropriate that we should have a break at this point. So we'll rise now and we'll resume, please, at 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, please. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Millett.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Members of the panel, I would now invite Alison Munro, Queen's Counsel, please, to come back to the podium and make the presentation on behalf of the family of Khadija Saye and Mary Mendy from flat 173 on floor 20 of Grenfell Tower. And again, as before, I would repeat the trigger warning that I've given, that during this presentation there may be reference to material which is distressing to some or those watching or listening, and so they should absent themselves from the hearing room or look away from the live stream, as the case may be. Ms. Munro, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Munro.
Whether it is now or 10 years down the line, I have this idea of opening doors. Like previous artists of colour, I feel I have the potential to do the same. Those were the words of Khadija Saye. Daughter, artist, carer, activist, young role model, friend. Put simply, Khadija Saye was an extraordinary and exceptional young woman. She had more than the potential. She had more than mere talent. She had the inspiration to open those doors. So much promised, so much more to give, so much more to achieve. Khadija's art represented who she was, what she wanted to say about this world and her experiences of it, what she wanted to say about other people. It embodied her politics, her activism, her spirit, her sense of humour. Khadija was born on the 30th of July, 1992 in London, to Mary Mendy and Mahamadou Saye. Both her parents were from the Gambia. It was her father, Mahamadou, who gave her her first camera, aged just 9. To the fledgling photographer, it was fun, it was a hobby. It was not something she knew would lead to a career. Her father said, it was this passion that Khadija pursued to the very end, because it gave her great satisfaction and brought her some joy and happiness. Khadija excelled at school, and at 16 she won a scholarship to Rugby Public School. The girl from the tower block was not fazed by this and embraced the opportunities that it presented and opened up for her. She went on to study art at the University for the Creative Arts, UCA Farnham. Khadija always saw herself as an activist and a campaigner, and was passionate about social justice and inequalities in society. Her politics informed her art. Her graduation piece in 2013 was called Crowned. In it, she celebrated, via a series of photographs, Afro-Caribbean women and their hairstyles, both the politics of black women's hair and its beauty. Her sitters were her family, her friends, her neighbours in Grenfell Tower. Her studio was flat 173, Grenfell Tower. Having graduated, Khadija did a variety of paid work. She joined up to Creative Access, a London-based charity that promotes diversity within the creative industries by providing work experience for young people from Black, Asian, and minority ethnic backgrounds through a range of paid internships, programs, and partnerships. But despite the opportunities given to her, Khadija did not take these things for granted and retained a sense of community. She was humble. She never forgot where she came from and was keen to give back to her community. In her spare time, she volunteered at Jawab, a charity that educates and empowers young Muslims. Her work, Eid, a series of photographs in vibrant colours, celebrated Muslim culture. But Khadija was the child of a Christian and Muslim marriage, and themes of religion, spirituality, unity and diversity were all there in her works. As her father believes, it embodied Khadija. He said she was very gentle, very kind and friendly. Her burning passion was photography, encouraged by her mother, Mary Mendy, who also lost her life in the same fire. Khadija said to me one day, "Daddy, I'm in love with images." With the permission of her family and her estate, I would like to show a print of one of the works from Khadija's final exhibition while I tell you a little bit more about that and about her and her mother. The exhibition was titled Dwelling. In this space we breathe. And this is a self-portrait entitled Setu, which means spiritual incantation. 2017 was Khadija's breakout year, when at the tender age of 24, she was on the cusp of something really big. Her work, made with the help of the artist Almudena Romero, was exhibited in the Diaspora Pavilion at the internationally renowned art festival, the Venice Biennale, along some of the biggest names in British art. Dwelling in this space we breathe was made up of 9 self-portraits using a photographic technique called wet collodion tintypes, which dates back to 1851. The image on the screen comes from this series. In an age of instant everything, this work took time and patience to create. It seems both old and new, as if frozen in time, yet very much of this time. It has a haunting quality. The art critic, filmmaker and presenter, Waldemar Januszek, described Khadija's piece as, quote, standing out across the entire Venice Biennale. It was some of the most moving work there. He then called on Maria Bolshol, the new director of the Tate, to display her work. Thank you. Now, whilst the great and the good eulogized her, it is perhaps from her community and friends that the most poignant memories come. Her friends at UCA, where she studied, were a tight-knit group of women who lived and created together. Some of them spoke to The Guardian just days after the fire. One of the group, Lou Johnson, said this: Khadija was one of the most remarkable people I have ever and probably will ever meet. She had the most infectious smile. She touched so many lives and made such a wonderful and lasting impression. I'm so proud of all she achieved and was going to achieve. I miss her so much and will forever have her in my thoughts. Her best friend was a fellow photographer, Charlotte Levy. She said this: she was just the most incredible person. She went through so much stuff, but she always listened and was always there for you. She was making such powerful work, but still saying she didn't have a clue. She was such a beautiful person. She lit up the room. Hers was art not born of pretension or inaccessible. It was quite the contrary. Her mother was Mary Mendy. Mary was a carer by profession and by nature. She was born on the 11th of June, 1963, in the Gambia. Her niece, Marion Telfer, who is present and with us today, gives a beautiful insight into Mary's life before she arrived in the UK. Mary was not Marion's biological mother, but due to custody issues with her own parents, Marion was essentially brought up by Mary. When we lived in the Gambia, says Marion, she would always pick me up from school, take me to work with her, and take care of me like a mother. Mary was a mother to me and my sole carer until I was 15. When I was nothing, she was everything. When I knew nothing, she told me the world about my potential. My aunt was the glue in my life. She always mended every broken part of me since the day I was born. She was my shield who protected me from every storm. She has been my strongest defender and my protector. My aunt trusted me to carry on with her wishes because she raised me to be strong, to never show my pain or fear while the battle was still going on. After the battle, I can cry all I want. Mary had visited the UK a number of times in the 80s before moving here permanently in 1989. Mary would still send money and clothes back to the Gambia for young Marion, and in 1992 sent for Marion to join her in London. Marion was around 9 years old, and the family, Mohamedou, Mary, and baby Khadija, all lived together in a bedsit in De Vere Gardens in Kensington. Mary brought up her daughters to be independent, educated, and hardworking, to never let their humble origins limit or constrain their horizons, to dream big. At the commemoration hearing, many members of the Mendy family spoke eloquently about Mary and Khadija. Amongst them was Clary Mendy, another extraordinary Gambian woman from this family. She gave her heart and soul for the memory of her family, but all the bereaved families, residents and survivors of Grenfell. As we know, Clary is no longer with us. Her sister Nelisha is here today. Her daughter Nina is watching remotely, as are her brothers Ambrose and Demel. I now turn, sir, to Mary and Khadija's life and sad death in Grenfell Tower. The family took up their tenancy of flat 173 on the 17th of January 1994. The tenancy was in Mary's sole name. They were happy there. Children in the tower looked up to Khadija. They were proud of her. To everyone, she was simply known as Khadija the artist. Her neighbours were proud of what she had achieved, as one of their own was making good. Melanie Abana, in her police statement describing the flats and neighbours on the 20th floor, wasn't sure of everyone's name, save for flat 1373, because Khadija the artist lived there, with her mother, the lovely caring lady. Mary, Khadija, Marion were all happy. Moving forward to the 13th of June 2017, the last known sightings of Khadija and Mary alive were as follows. CCTV footage shows Khadija in the lift lobby at around 21:08. Similar footage shows Mary Mendy in the lift lobby at 23:06:53. We know from the testimony of others the conditions on the 20th floor. By the time Petra Deluva and her partner had left their flat 174 at approximately 01:37, as you've heard this morning, conditions in the lobby blinded them. So you may recall from Jessica Urbano's presentation the evidence of CM Secret and firefighters Badillo and Dorgu, who equally encountered limited visibility in the lobbies when they reached there at 01:40. At 01:43, Farah Hamdan was telling the control room from her flat 175 that smoke was coming into their flat, but that her and her family could not leave because of the thick black smoke in the lobby. Sir, you and the panel will hear more about Farah and her family this afternoon. Having found no one on flat 176, CM Secret, Badillo and Dorgu, in their unsuccessful rescue attempt for Jessica, note that none of the firefighters referred to closing the front door of flat 176 on their way out as they made their way back to the lift lobby. They could not make contact with the bridgehead, and CM Secret's BA alarms had gone off. So the crew left that floor without knocking on any other doors. At 01:57:15, the crew had returned to the ECB and closed down. Unbeknownst to those firefighters, the rest of floor 20 was still very much occupied. There were no deployments to Khadija and Mary's flat. But we know that they were there. We know that the Belkadi families were in flat 175. And as we've just heard, we know the occupants of 172 were also there. All of them died. As you've heard also this morning, sir, from Mr. Freedman, Queen's Counsel, some occupants on that floor were able to self-evacuate, including Emma O'Connor, who has disabilities, Luke Towner, and Petra Delova. It is important to remember the conditions on floor 20 when looking at the timeline for Khadija and Mary. By 02:03, smoke could be seen emerging from flats 174 and 175 on the 20th floor. Khadija and Mary did not make many 999 calls, but they did, nonetheless, have conversations and communications with the outside world via Khadija's entries and posting on Facebook. And because of that, we have a real-time chronology of what went on. Khadija posted a message at 01:49 indicating that she and her mother, quote, can't leave the flat. There was fear and there was anxiety. She goes on to say, there's a fire in my council block, can't leave flat. Please pray for me and my mum. Whilst Khadija is posting these messages, between 01:59 and 02:25, we know that firefighters Williams and Fernandez were deployed to flat 20, floor 20, to assist the Belkadi family. We will hear more this afternoon. Also, while on floor 20, CM Eden and firefighter Welsh say that they knocked on the doors of flats 171, 172, and 173, but got no answer. A photograph showing FSGs at 2:15 approximately includes flat 173, and it seems to indicate that Glyn Williams had started collating FSG calls around that time. The LFB operational response report has the time at precisely 02:16:28. The list under which flat 173 is recorded was the second list that was drawn up, according to the evidence of Glyn Williams. It is likely that this call was recorded sometime after he started writing the list, but exactly what FSG information filtered through from documentation is unknown. The absence of BA indicates no BA committed to the flat or their location. At the time that firefighters Welsh and CM Eden say they were knocking on doors, including 173, Khadija made a 999 call. This is at 2:26:48. The call is taken by CRO Russell. I propose to read a part of the transcript. Khadija says, smoke is coming in quite a lot now. I'm in my living room with my mum. CRO Russell, you've got two options. If it's safer for you to stay or to try and get out, question. Khadija, I'm too high up to get out, and when the doors open, there's a lot of smoke. CRO Russell, block the gaps around the door. Keep as much smoke out as you can. Keep away from the window and doors. We'll send a message to the crew. It might take a little while, but they're on their way. Keep away from the smoke. Call back if anything changes. So what has happened here? In the smoke and confusion in the lobbies, perhaps, with no plans and being unfamiliar with the layout, the firefighters knocked on doors. But why would Mary and Khadija not hear them? That would be their salvation. We simply don't know. Khadija continues to write on her Facebook page. It's now 02:41, and she says, "Still in my flat. Please pray. I'm in Grenfell Tower, 20th floor." Meanwhile, the Willesden crew of firefighters are on the 20th floor answering the FSG for flat 175, the Belkadis. Khadija's friend, who has been speaking to her on Facebook, makes the first of his 99 calls. This is recorded at 02:50:19 and lasts for 39 seconds. The call is taken by CRO Jones. Khadija's friend says, "My friend is stuck in Grenfell Tower, 20th floor, flat 173. She's asked me to call the fire brigade." CRO Jones, "The advice we are given at the moment, I'm afraid, is that everyone just tries and gets out." Khadija's friend goes back onto Facebook to tell Khadija what has happened. He posts at 02:55. "The lady I spoke to on the 999 said the advice they are giving people is to try and get out." He makes a further call at 02:56:51. This is taken by CRO Adams. She advises, she, Khadija, needs to leave the building if she possibly can. She needs to cover herself, get some water, cover herself in a wet towel or a wet sheet, anything, and she needs to leave the building. Khadija and her friend continue to post on Facebook. At 02:57, her friend says, "Hey, are you okay? I can see the fire from my window. I can't believe it. Please try and be safe." I called again. They said to cover yourself in a wet blanket and get some water and try and leave. At 03:02, Khadija tells him that she's really scared to leave. "Did you tell her I'm high up?" "I did. I'm so sorry. I can call again. Please. I'm calling now. What's happening in your flat?" They've asked, "Is there the fire there? In your flat? Wet towels, wet sheets." At 03:04, CRO Housen takes another 999 call from Khadija's friend. He tells her, "My best friend is on Facebook and she's stuck on the 20th floor." CRO Housen asks him to ask the resident what is going on in the flat, and while waiting for the answer, CRO Housen asks the caller to pass on the advice to leave, and they need to cover their faces with wet towels, wet sheets, and leave. Khadija's friend confirms that he's passed on the information. He also explains that there was smoke in the stairwell. There is no confirmation of which flat the resident was in. He goes back onto Facebook to speak to Khadija. It's now 3:05. "What's happening in your flat?" They've asked, "Is there fire in your flat?" "No, just lots of smoke. But I can see the fire outside." "You need to leave if you can't see." "Stay together. Go along the walls in the stairway. If you feel you're safe in your flat," she said, "that's your decision." But she said they're advising people to leave. "It's just smoke in the stairwell, apparently. There's no fire." "Okay." But they said, "Cover your face with a wet sheet and towel." "Okay." "So don't inhale. Don't inhale. I'm so sorry. I'll keep trying. I'll keep tweeting." But they said, "There's just smoke in the stairwell, not fire." But it will be dark, so stay together and cover your face with wet sheets and blankets. At 3:09, her friend posts again, checking how to get out of a burning building. It seems that the friend is literally Googling how to get out of a burning building, because he reads as follows: check the door to your apartment. If smoke is entering from around the door, do not open it. Protect yourself from smoke inside your apartment. If there's no smoke, brace yourself and open the door a little. If you see smoke or feel heat, close the door quickly and protect yourself. If the corridor is clear, take your keys, lock the door, and go to the nearest stairway. There is a gap of about 4 minutes. Then, shortly before 03:14, Mary and Khadija tried to leave the flat, but could not because of the smoke. Khadija reports back on Facebook at 3:14. I tried to leave, but the smoke is too strong. Her friend says, can you not find a way to the stairwell? Khadija, no, it's black. I took 2 steps and started to choke. The friend makes a further 999 call at 03:17 and 18 seconds. CRO Russell takes the call. Caller, my friend is in the building. The call drops before connecting. The operator relays a message to the control room that a female friend is stuck in the flat, can't get out because smoke too thick. They give the control room a mobile number for the caller. CRO Russell says, we'll report call to the command unit. Khadija's friend phones again at 03:18. CRO Russell picks up this call. He tells CRO Russell that his friend is inside with her mum and has been messaging him. CRO Russell tells him, we are aware of this one and we've been speaking to her. We're on our way up. If she contacts you again, tell her the best bet is to try and make her way out. Advice to use blankets, etc. That's what we're telling everyone. But she's saying she can't get through the smoke. Khadija's friend goes back to Facebook. It's now 3:18. Where's your mum? It's all over the news. I'm sure they're trying to put the fire out. Can you see the fire engines out of the window? Don't panic, honey. 3:20, Khadija. My mum's here too, her friend. They did say on the phone to me that if you feel safe in your flat, you can stay there. But they are advising people to leave. The sooner you try and leave, the better. Though obviously I'll keep tweeting and calling. And then Khadija doesn't say any more. Her friend asks, wet blankets, cover your face, and use the walls to find the stairwell. He tells her, there are 200 firefighters helping downstairs, and there are 40 fire engines with you. Stay calm. It's on one side of the building. Perhaps you can go to the other side where it's furthest away. There then is a gap of some 6 minutes. At 03:27, Khadija posts again. Just tried to leave again. It's impossible. I felt like I was going to faint. Her friend, did you try getting down low and using the towels? Yes. It's in my room. I'm going to call 999 again. They're saying the same thing. I'm praying for you, Khadija. You do what you have to do to get safe, please. At 03:33, her friend posts, what's your number? They're asking. There's no response. He phones 999 again at 03:33. Once again, CRO Russell answers a call. Caller, my friend is stuck inside still. CRO Russell. Yeah, we're aware of this one. It's on the board. The crew knows. Caller, they've tried to get out a few times, but the smoke is so thick outside it's coming into the flat now, and they can't breathe. And they feel like they're going to faint. CRO Russell, if you contact them again, tell them if they can't get out, their best bet is just to get out, to cover their heads with a wet towel or blankets, anything. Make sure their mouths and noses are covered and try to leave. If they can't, go to a room, shut the door, block all the gaps and close the windows. Khadija's friend goes back onto Facebook page at 03:34. Khadija, did someone reach you yet? He gets no reply for some 2 minutes, so he writes again. They've said the same thing. They've said they're advising people to get out if possible. Stay lower, cover your mouth and nose and face with wet towels. But if you can't get out, stay, shut yourself in a room, cover the door, etc. Keep the fire out and get as low on the floor as you can because smoke rises, and cover your face with wet towels. Still, even if inside. 03:36, there's still no reply from Khadija. He writes again, they are saying that the firemen are coming. No reply. 03:51, Khadija still hasn't posted on Facebook. I'm praying for all of you. 03:58, Khadija hasn't posted. Reading this is making me cry, her friend says. I feel sick. I hope she's okay. We know that Khadija and Mary made those attempts to leave the flat, and at one point they did manage to actually leave. Mary and Khadija entered the smoke-filled lobby and made their way to the stairwell. Once there, they started their descent. They made it down 7 floors to floor 13. That is where Mary's journey ends. Mary's body was found in the lobby area of the 13th floor. At 04:07, a BA team of firefighters, Cuthbert and Sonson, are ascending to the 10th floor. As they ascend, they find a body in the stairwell. It's Khadija. She's passed away. Khadija's father woke up at 4 a.m. in the early hours of the 14th of June. That was very uncharacteristic for him, but he got out of bed. He had a strange, unsettling feeling that something wasn't right. He repeatedly called Khadija, but there was no response on her mobile. So he decided to go to Grenfell Tower. He got there, he saw the fire engines and the cordons, but it was still not registering with him the scale of the disaster. The whole block was in flames. Mr. Saye remained in the area the rest of the day until the afternoon, trying to find out where his daughter was and where Mary was. About 10 or 11 in the morning, word had gone round that there were centres being set up so people could look for their relatives. He thinks there were about 5, and he started to visit them one by one, but without success. At St Clement's, there were a list of people that were missing or had been found. Khadija's friends were also looking for her and had been going around trying to find her. One of them had mistakenly put her name under the list of those who had been found. Mr. Saye saw that. He was told to wait, and they would go and get Khadija and Mary for him. So he waited. They came back without them. Someone then told him possibly they might be still in the hospital. Mr. Saye found Marion, and together they split up, looking at different hospitals, but they couldn't find Mary, and they couldn't find Khadija. Finally, he decided to register Mary and Khadija as missing with the police and went home and waited. He waited the rest of that day and heard nothing. The following day, the police liaison officer called and came to see him at home. He was told they had found Mary and Khadija, but they had not survived. Dr. Swift reported on the 19th of June 2017 in respect of Mary's post-mortem. He records a medical cause of death as inhalation of fire fumes. Khadija's post-mortem was carried out by Dr. Simon Poole. He found the medical cause of death for Khadija Saye to be inhalations of fumes. So on their post-mortems, both had a medical cause of death as recorded as 1A, inhalation of fumes. Concluding remarks. Mary Mendy continues to be a beacon and guiding light for Marion Telfer. Now a mother herself, she encourages and endeavours to instil in her own children those invaluable lessons that she learnt from Mary Mendy when she was a child: resilience, ambition, kindness, and love. Khadija Saye Arts was set up by Inter-University, a national charity which serves over 35,000 disadvantaged young people from across 31 local communities and learning centres, working with children between the age of 7 upwards, and I quote, opening young people's minds to the power of education and the arts. Her work in this space we breathe was also exhibited at the British Library from the end of last year. For Mohamedou Saye and the rest of the extended family, they are left asking the same question all of the Grenfell families ask: why? Why Mary? She was a good woman. She was a carer. She was someone who made her community and society a better place. And why Khadija? With the biennale exhibition in 2017, Khadija had arrived, only to cruelly depart this world on the 14th of June the same year. Her star shone dazzlingly bright, but for all too short a time before it disappeared forever. Sir, panel, I'd like to end where I began, with Khadija's words. She wrote her own notes to accompany her exhibition, dwelling in this space we breathe. Her words now seem remarkably prescient, as if written for that dwelling she once called home, Grenfell, but which ultimately she could not breathe in. I commend her words to the Grenfell community, to the bereaved families, and those left to mourn. Khadija said this: this series was created from a personal need for spiritual grounding after experiencing trauma, the search for which gives meaning to our lives and what we hold on to in times of despair and life-changing challenges. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Munro. Now, we have one more presentation to receive today, but in order to enable members of the family to be present, we're going to adjourn now and resume at 3:30 this afternoon. So at that point, we shall rise, and as I say, we shall resume, please, at 3:30. Thank you very much.